D2. All right, let's start with Texas Tech and Arizona State as Rudy Carpenter joins us now on the right side of the guest line here on Rocket News with Jimmy B. All right, what's your biggest takeaway in that game? I know there was some maybe it's disciplinary issues, but some careless mistakes, just some things that went wrong. Do you think the lights were too high for these guys? Rudy?
I'm probably going to – you guys got me?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have a take or an opinion, I guess, that probably, ASU fans aren't going to like. But I think if you look at the teams that ASU has played this season, look, I like, is it nice to beat Mississippi State? Yeah, but they're just not very good. Texas State is who Texas State is. So, look, in my viewpoint, I just think that, everybody was really excited about, ASU and, the start to their season and their record, et cetera, et cetera. But I actually think that, and I think Kenny's doing a great job. I think that staff is doing a great job. But I think the way they played on Saturday against Texas Tech is really maybe a more accurate barometer of really who they are.
That's fair. I mean, and I don't think that's a knock on in any way. I mean, I think people that know the program, you get excited to win 3 games, of course. But yeah, I think this is a good test. And but the problem is, and I think Coach said it, is it's like 2 losses. You lose this game, and then you got a bye week, right? And you've been there, Rudy. I mean, it does soak in really deep, doesn't it, when you lose?
Yeah, I mean, it in my viewpoint, it always, sucks going into your bye week with a loss because, yeah, I mean, it just lingers, and you don't get to, what they say, get the bad taste out of your mouth, simply because you got a bye week and you have to wait, But I do think that sometimes, it's only 1 loss, and so sometimes you can use this bye week, 1, to get healthy, 2, to address some of the issues that you might have, whether it's a turnover issues or disciplinary issues or operation issues, or maybe you get guys, back that were unhealthy. I also think you can use it as an opportunity to, quote unquote, stop the bleeding.
And I think we're not to take anything from the Pac-12, but when you play into the Big 12, the way they go up and down the field, the athletes may not be as physical, but this was a very physical Texas Tech team. But the Devils did get within earshot, only 17-10 at halftime. But I think that they came out a little lethargic. And maybe to your point, you get a couple of nice wins against a couple of programs like Mississippi State and Texas State. Not that they took them lightly, but I don't know if they realize you got to come out in 4th gear when you're playing these kind of teams in the Big 12.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the big differences when you look at a team like Texas Tech compared to Texas State. It's like, maybe the starting units might be similar in skill, but when you really get into the, the depth, of some of these programs, that's when you really start to see the disparity. And I think, you saw that a little bit, as the game wore on with Texas Tech. They're just a little bit deeper. A little bit deeper in talent, a little bit deeper in toughness, and overall, that showed as the game, kind of went on. It also sucks, when you have a guy like, I think his name is Jalen Conyers, right, who played for you last year. Now he's at Texas Tech scoring a touchdown. It's like, those things, don't feel good either.
So when you look at this team, as Rock alluded to, the week off, you got KU coming in 2 weeks, first Big 12 home opener. What would be some of the things you would recommend you'd like to see them focus on as the Jayhawks come to town in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, I think the Kansas team's a pretty interesting team. They've been decent on offense. They've been decent on defense this year. They've been challenged. Their quarterback, Jalen Daniels, for Kansas is an interesting player. Their coaching staff, I think, at Kansas has done a really, really good job with that program. To me, I think one of the things I'd like to see ASU, and I don't think people will be surprised because of my position, but I'd like to see them get the passing game going. I'd like to see them get the explosive plays going. You know, obviously you've got Cam Scadaboo, and he does a nice job in the run game. And I think, you know, ultimately the goal is you get that run game going. You know, let's force teams to bring a safety down the box, force teams to play us with some single high zone coverage or some single high man coverage, then give us a chance to play action pass and try to hit some explosives. And I think that's, in my viewpoint, without all of the stats in front of me and without watching the, you know, all 22 tape, it's something that just by watching the game I haven't seen a ton of, which is the big explosive pass plays down the field.
Rudy, before we get to talking about the Cardinals, are you aware this Alonzo Barnett kid at James Madison had the 7 touchdowns combined, 5 throwing and 2 that smoked North Carolina? Were you aware of this kid at all?
No, I haven't seen the kid play at all, to be fair. Haven't seen him. I don't know a ton about him. Obviously, he's now on the radar.
Yeah.
But what I will say is that me personally, I think JMU, James Madison, has been one of the most underrated programs, you know, over the last 3 or 4 years in the FCS.
3.
Rudy, when you look at the performance of Kyler Murray, not looking for a grade per se, but your overall take on what you saw.
I mean, you know, you didn't play bad. You didn't lose because of Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say what I feel like I've been saying for the last couple of years. In order for the Cardinals to win the way that he played last week is how he has to play every single game in order for them to have a chance to win. If there's ever a time where Kyler plays at a pedestrian level or an average level, if he goes out there and goes 20 for 29 for 200 yards and a touchdown and no interceptions, they'll never win like that. They'll never win like that. And, you know, there are a lot of other teams out there who can win if they have a quarterback who puts up numbers like that. And, you know, I'm going to go back to say what I've always been saying, which is the quarterback is so important, and I understand it, but I don't care how good your quarterback is. If you don't have the right pieces around the guy, it doesn't matter. And I think we're seeing that right now with a guy like Sam Darnold. Everybody had an opinion on Sam Darnold. He's bounced around the league, and now all of a sudden he's at an organization where they trust him. He's at an organization where they have confidence in him. He's got some pieces around him, and now all of a sudden they're, you know, 3-0 or 4-0, and Sam Darnold is playing like a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And I personally think that's who he's always been, but he's just never been in a situation to do it. On the flip side, you look at a situation like Bryce Young and Andy Dalton. You know, you got a guy in Andy Dalton who can play and who's good and can still win you games, compared to a Bryce Young. And it's like all of a sudden you make that change and the Panthers look totally different. And I think it goes back to what we've been hearing Tom Brady say, which is we're drafting these young quarterbacks, we're forcing them to play whether or not they have the pieces around them or not. And we're dumbing the game down and, you know, forcing these guys to go out there and play. And I think now with Kyler, to bring it back to the Cardinals, is he played pretty good throughout times in his first couple of years, forced the Cardinals to give him a massive deal. And now, you know, I mean, I still think they have some money, but at the end of the day, they have never gone out there since he's been here and tried to actually put the pieces around him to make a Super Bowl push or a Super Bowl run.
Rudy, quickly, how disappointed were you that they couldn't run the football? I mean, James Connors runs for 17 yards. That's it.
Yeah.
Was that just because of the Lions' front seven?
Again, you know, it's hard for me to say without really watching the all 22. I believe James Conner was like rushing for 100 yards or something, at least in almost every game up until this point, or at least was close to it. So for him to only go for 17 yards was obviously bad, and nobody else, you know, really did anything. And again, it just goes back to what I've been saying, which is like, you have to have Kyler Murray playing at a superhuman level every single week to even have a chance to win. Now, I don't know if I went back and watched the All-22, I might say, oh, they gave up on the run too early, or, oh, they could have done this and they could have done that. But I also know that the way the Detroit Lions play, the way that front seven is, the way Aiden Hutchinson is, the way their head coach, Dan Campbell, is, that's the guy who's going to build that team from the inside out, offensive and defensive line first. And that's what they preach in that organization is we're going to run the ball and win by running the ball and basically inserting, our power on people, and we're going to insert our will over these teams. And then we're going to come out and stop the run and force teams to be one-dimensional. And that's, really when the Lions are playing good, what they've been able to do to teams.
He's Rudy Carpenter. Follow him on Twitter at RudyGCarp12. Always joins us, or always has a lot to say when he joins us on Monday. Go ahead.
Let me say this. Sorry. When you look at the Arizona Cardinals, Dan, who are they? What's their identity? But when you look across at the Detroit Lions, you know what their identity is.
Yep.
And I just think that's the problem with the Arizona Cardinals.
I would agree. Twofold, you're preaching the choir with that one, too. We'll leave it at that, but you're right on. They're physical, and they're there. Thanks, Rudy. Appreciate it, buddy.
Rudy Carpenter joining us, as he does each and every week. As I mentioned, brought to you by All City Towing. Join the team at the largest towing company in the state. That's All City Towing. They're hiring dispatchers, call takers, lot attendants, drivers, customer service personnel. You can enjoy all the benefits with the state's most advanced towing equipment. You got work schedules that you can set, a healthy 401 employer match, healthy benefits, employer-paid life insurance, and much, much more. If you're looking to take your career to the next level, visit them online at allcitytowing.com. All City Towing, where the future is on the move. Football 50's next. It's Rock and Manooch from Arena Sports Grill in Scottsdale.